Aduna bi alsamadi mënatuñu nangu ñun doomi Afrika ngeen di ñu xool ak benn bët.
Pay attention to me, my name is Nancy. It's my history, the African in me. Since before I could read, my brain fit to feed. Had my feet on the ground from my Fulani seed.
Wake up, good morning. This is Dakar calling. L'Afrique Italie. This is Senegal calling. Wake up, good morning. This is Dakar calling. Yusuf Italie. This is Africa calling. Loja bonanga koba. Mangi fi day, mangi fi ëllëg. Bés bu ne day dellu si. Nanga ko gëm la ko day.
Holding on to all the little pieces. I'm with you, so preaching positive things.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the closing session of the PATA Summit. My name is Georgina Caswell, and I am head of programs at the Global Network of People Living with HIV. I am currently sitting in PATA's offices in Cape Town, an office which I love being in, and I'm here with the PATA team here in Cape Town, and just really excited to lead us through this closing session. Just before we get started, shall we say hi to a couple of hubs? Tech team, can you take us to a couple of hubs to say hi? Okay, we can Malawi, unmute and say hi. Unmute. Wow. My goodness. That is a lot of energy coming from Malawi. Warm heart of Africa. Thank you so much for that energy. Amazing. After 3 days, you still have that energy. Just amazing, amazing. Good to see you guys. And next, are we going over to Cairo? Is that Eddie from Congo? Yes. My goodness. Look at that. Amazing, amazing. Great to see you, Eddie. Great to see you, everybody at SNY Plus. Ooh, is that an extra one for me? That was an extra one for me from Eddie. Thank you so much. Thank you, tech colleagues, for that. Thank you. Okay, so this closing session is actually called a Lekgotla, and it's basically a conversation. This is a conversation which is bringing together different stakeholders around a key theme. And our key theme is the Global Alliance to End AIDS in Children. And this is a new alliance, which on the first day of the summit, Shafiq introduced to us all. And today we are going to have a focused conversation about this Global Alliance. It's important that we all know about it. It's a Global Alliance to End AIDS in Children. And our work here is for children and for adolescents living with and affected by HIV. So this is really an alliance that we need to know about, that we need to engage with, that we need to hold to account, that we need to leverage in all the work that we do. So please do listen. Please do listen to the different stakeholders speak, and please engage with us in this conversation. So the session is called, What are the Building Blocks for Effective Partnership in a Global Alliance to End AIDS in Children? And maybe just before we get started in the conversation, just to remind us all again about this Global Alliance. It's a global alliance that was launched just in July this year at the AIDS conference in Canada. So it's really brand new. And it's at a stage where it is being developed. And so this is part of shaping it, actually. This conversation is part of shaping this global alliance. It's got quite a, it's got a very powerful vision. The vision, I'm going to read it to you, is a strong, strategic, and action-orientated alliance of multi-sectoral stakeholders at country, regional, and global levels that work with women living with HIV and directly affected communities. Powerful that that's explicitly in there. National governments and partners to mobilize leadership, funding, and action to end AIDS in children by 2030. So as you can hear, it's a political space. It's a big space, a global alliance. It's a political space. It's a space that wants to push for action for children. It wants to stimulate innovation and excellence. And it wants to also create mutual accountability around shared targets and commitments. So this is something we need to really be engaged with because it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap for our work to end AIDS in children by 2030. And so that you're aware, this global alliance involves partners like UNAIDS, UNICEF, WHO, networks of people living with HIV, civil society organizations. And that's the steering committee that's guiding this work. Now, we've had plans before. I don't know how many of you are as old as me and you remember the global plan. Do you remember the global plan to eliminate vertical transmission? And then after that, there was start free, stay free, AIDS free. So that was another plan. And this is therefore yet another plan. This is the latest plan, the Global Alliance to End AIDS in Children. So today's discussion, what we're going to do is we're going to be thinking about, what should this global alliance focus on? What should it prioritize? And above all, what does really good partnership look like in this new alliance? How can we do it differently from the global plan or from start free, stay free, AIDS free? What can we do differently? So that's what we're going to spend the next hour talking about. So for our conversation here, we have an amazing set of panelists. We've got amazing speakers with us. We have Nozipho Mukabeta, who's from ZY Plus in Zimbabwe. We have Nobutle Mtetwa from the Ministry of Health in Eswatini. Nobutle, you can see you've got a lot of Eswatini people watching you right now. Yes, no pressure. We have Tim Rwabuhemba, who's from UNAIDS and based in South Africa and really leading, coordinating, leading this global alliance. So we're speaking straight today to those who are actually leading this space. We have Sabrina Erne, who's an advocate and a senior advisor at AIDS Funds, loves children and supports investments and action around children. And then we have Colleen Wagner, who's from Nakosa here in South Africa, a nurse who's also going to be speaking from the perspective of a provider. So that's our amazing set of panelists who will be part of our conversation today. So wherever you are, even online, if you can please give them a round of applause as we get started. Thank you. I actually have people with me, so it means that our applauses are not just me, which is great. Excellent. All right, are we ready to start, team? Yes? Yes, all right, okay. So we're going to start with Nozipho. Hi, Nozipho.
Hi, Georgina.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes, good. So Nozipho is a peer supporter, mentor mother with the Zimbabwe network of young people living with HIV, right? And a mom, you're a mom, aren't you, Nozipho?
Yes, I am, Georgina.
Great. And so please tell me, I mean, as someone who supports other mothers, what does a big political initiative like the Global Alliance mean to you? What does it say to you? What opportunities do you see in such a big alliance?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Georgina. But first, before I talk about the big global alliance, I just want to let everyone know how important peer support is. Peer support is very important to young mothers because it is the tool that will help them to be able to navigate the PMTCT program successfully. And for that to be effective, you need peer supporters. And also, this will also contribute in ending AIDS in children. So I think the Global Alliance is big, it's exciting, and I think it's overwhelming. The word itself, it's big. So I think the Global Alliance should more like put us into these spaces, more like make us be part of these, prioritize our needs as peer supporters, what we need on the ground. We work with our peers. We work with these people, we track them, we find them when they default, we're ever following them. But then do the Global Alliance and the government, do they consider us as partners? Do they know our needs? Do they know what we're going through on the ground? Every day we find issues that affect young mothers, that affect young people. But do we even have the resources? Do we even have the knowledge to go out there and help them and assist them? I feel like there are gaps, and these gaps should be covered. Like, we should get proper training. The stipend that we get, is it even enough for us to keep going, to keep supporting our peers? Is it enough? They should invest in us as young people. And I think we should not just be taken as volunteers or people that work in the community. They should put us like partners. They should consider us. They should also support us because we are supporting others. So I feel the Global Alliance is something big, and I'm hoping since it's there, our needs are going to be catered for and the gaps are going to be filled.
Amazing. That's very, very powerful. So your message is there to, in terms of the opportunity of such a global alliance, to really kind of recognize peer supporters as partners, as real partners, and to recognize and cater for the needs of peer supporters on the ground. And you mentioned training, you mentioned an actual remunerating peer supporters properly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Sister. Yes.
Yeah. And any other key messages you touched a bit on at the beginning on involvement? What do you mean by involvement? What does it mean to involve a peer supporter?
Okay. I know as a Global Alliance, I know at global level, I know we've got the AY Plus, that the AY Global, that is there. It's working with young people there, and it's part of the steering committee, and we've got Maxime speaking up for us as young people. But at national level, is there a young woman, a young mother, or a young person speaking up for us? And at regional level, at district level, is there a young mother or is there a young person speaking up for us? I'm seeing a gap there. And in terms of involvement, I'm thinking maybe the Global Alliance and the government should involve us in terms of when structuring and in decision making. We should be part of those processes because we work on the ground. We know what these mothers are facing. We know what they are facing. We've walked the walk with them. So I feel like we should be part of the process, and we should be involved in these decisions and the structuring of whatever that is taking place that has to do with us. And I would just say, I believe there is nothing for us without us.
Powerful.
That's my message, Regina.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nosipo. That's a very, very powerful message. And you're absolutely right. At global level, Tim can confirm that Y Plus Global are indeed active in the steering committee and in the leadership and the thinking around the Global Alliance. But we also need to see that at national level. We need to see that at district level. So for those MOH staff who are here in the different hubs, for Nobutle, who's here with us, you know, that key message that also at national level, also at district level, it's important to have the voices of peer supporters and young people in those key decision-making structures. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nosipo. Thank you. So
Thank you, Georgina.
Yeah, so moving to Colleen. Hi, Colleen. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon,
Hi.
everybody.
Good afternoon, Colleen. I'm replying for everybody here. Good afternoon, Colleen. So from a provider's perspective, as a registered nurse, we've heard from peer supporters, we've heard that the Global Alliance might be a space to really recognize and elevate those needs of peer supporters, for peer supporters to be seen as equal partners. From a health provider perspective, what do you see in terms of opportunity from the Global Alliance?
So thank you so much, Georgina, and excited to be a part of the question. So providers need to know what the Global Alliance is if we are to own it. I feel like it's very recent. As you said, there's been previous plans. This is another plan. And so it is the political will. And so for healthcare providers at the coalface to be able to be supported, firstly, they need to know what it is. And then in terms of the package of care, it will put the focus and the attention back on children. That's a good thing. The 4 pillars that has been identified in the plan helps us to know where and on what to focus, such as early testing, scaling up better treatment options for children, getting pregnant and breastfeeding, getting pregnant and breastfeeding moms regularly tested and initiated, with much more options being placed on the prevention options and addressing the barriers, rights, and obviously gender equality that places many young people at risk.
Okay, so are you saying that maybe it's providing a bit of a holistic package? It's calling for a more holistic package when it comes to testing, to treatment, and to dealing with the holistic needs of families and children.
Exactly. And you know, with gender, even the UNAIDS has focused on gender equality with this year's World AIDS. It's a challenge. So even the inequality that exists, that also needs to be addressed as part of the holistic approach, so that it's not a siloed, one-sided. It's not only an approach that only focuses on the medical response, you know, the healthcare, but that it is looking at young people at risk and then responding in that manner. Yeah.
Absolutely, because ultimately we know that our lives are not biomedical, are they? They're not purely biomedical, they're intersectional. There
Exactly.
are lots of different needs. So in many ways, as you say, the this particular Global Alliance, in terms of the content that it looks at, testing and treatment and preventing new infections, but also addressing rights. It's
Exactly.
very kind of holistic in how it places the person, right? In this case, the children and their families.
Exactly. And that healthcare workers are an integral part of this response. And so healthcare workers need to be consulted. They are at the coalface. Like I said, we've just come through a pandemic, and we have seen the critical role that healthcare workers played in the pandemic, and even this with HIV and with this Global Alliance. It's that healthcare workers are at the coalface and that they are pivotal in supporting the interventions here.
And would that be your key message in terms of what can be done differently in partnership? We heard Nosipo say, make sure that young people are part of the decision-making structures. So that's about partnership. Yeah. So is that also your message from a provider perspective?
Agree, 100%. Agree, 100%. You know, every country has spaces where they have these technical working groups, etc., etc. But if healthcare providers are not consulted and that they are not included, it's lopsided. And so the healthcare workers, like I was saying, they've got a track record, they can monitor services, they've got lived experiences, and they are closest to where these services are happening. So definitely, please include healthcare workers in the fight against HIV and AIDS and on this road to 2030.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those messages, Colleen. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's move to the MOH. Let's move to Nobutle Matetwa. pediatric ART focal point at the Ministry of Health in Eswatini. Nobutle, I think that if we unmute your Eswatini people again, they will scream at us, hey, Eswatini is here. So we won't do that.
Let's rather not.
Yes, but I'm sure they're excited to see you here on the screen. So we've heard from Nosipo from a peer supporter perspective. We've heard from Colleen from a provider perspective. And both are saying that they do see opportunity with this global alliance. And for them, the key thing is some meaningful consultation and involvement. And so for you, from a MOH perspective, how do you see the Global Alliance benefiting MOHs, such as the MOH in the Ministry of Health in Eswatini? How do you see it being able to help drive progress in Eswatini?
Thank you, Georgina, for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. Global Alliance. For us, I think we see that it's going to give us the regional push for the pediatric agenda. And it will help the countries to be together and to actually adopt policies and make an urgent action plan for children and to eliminate pediatric HIV by 2030. And I think as a country, we know that we've actually achieved the 95 targets. So we want to scale up and focus on what we know. We want to focus on our game changers. We want to actually focus and invest on our best practices. And we want to work with our partners to targeted interventions and targeted sites. Excellent. I think I want to speak to our success story that we've had in the country and the interventions that we've actually done in the country for us to achieve the 95.
And if I may just stop you, there's a slide. I think Pata Tech, there's a slide. Nobutle has a slide. It's just one to show as she speaks about best practices and scaling up these best practices. Are you able to bring that up for her? There we go.
Yes, of course. And let me start by actually acknowledging that all these achievements were achieved by a strong collaboration and teamwork of healthcare services, of healthcare workers from the service point, from our young people, straight to the political level. So these are the best practices that we have. We started by ART optimization, where we introduced DTG. We also strengthened increased viral load coverage for our children. On-site mentorship and facility mentorship was also going in place and still goes on in place. HIV drug resistant programming, we put that in place. Supply chain management so that we don't have stockouts. Close collaboration and coordination between government, PEPFAR, UN partners and NGOs and Global Fund. Reduced the age of consent for STS to 12 years and for HIV, for health services to 12 years so that there's increased access. And also we have the Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Act in place in the country. We also do DSD delivery. We scaled up PrEP, VMMC, and we are actually now implementing fully the U equals to U. We also scaled up a POC, and now we're moving to POC viral load testing. And we also scaled psychosocial support programs for peer support for our healthcare workers and mentor mothers.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that presentation. And I was just speaking to my PATA colleague next to me here and actually saying, goodness, when we think about the 4 pillars of the Global Alliance, so when we think about early testing and quality treatment, closing the treatment gap, preventing and detecting new infections, addressing rights, gender equality, and social and structural barriers. Would you say, Nobutle, that this package of best practices and interventions, they span these different 4 pillars, don't they?
They do. And I think our focus here, it's not the best practice, but we also want to advocate for the global funders to help us actually, because there were many strategies that were put in place, as you can see. We need to sustain these strategies for us to maintain this goal that we have achieved.
Absolutely. And you may have reached 95, 95, 95, but we do wonder what are the 5 that are left behind. And it's important that therefore those targeted interventions that you speak about, the targeted interventions, the scale up of those best practices that you know of, that there's indeed an investment in those. Yeah. And Nobudle, tell me, we've talked about effective partnership. And
Yes.
And we heard from Nosipo, we heard from Colleen as well about what needs to be done in terms of partnership. So from your perspective as MOH, we know that MOH is always taken seriously, always. So you were taken seriously in the global plan, you were taken seriously in start free, stay free, AIDS free. But for you, what do you think needs to be done differently in terms of partnership as we start in the new global alliance?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Political commitment remains a great concern. Also, prioritizing the pediatric agenda in all national platforms is very crucial. We want also the Global Alliance to help advocate for, I think in pediatric HIV, we actually need FDCs, simpler, palatable regimens. So we need advocacy from them so that we always have a current and we optimize ART. So we also want to use the multi-sectoral approach in addressing the holistic care of the child, not only on the treatment. And we want countries to invest their time, real effort in partnership, proper programming and coordinating things at TWG level, so that there is actually joint action and monitoring of all the indicators that we're tracking, so that we share one vision as a country with other countries in achieving the Global Alliance platform.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nobudle. Thank you very much. And it very much speaks to actually the vision of the new Global Alliance, which is about a shared action. It's about joint action. It's about joint accountability. And it's about, you know, just working together to take what is good, as you say, up to scale. So thank you very much for that. So moving on to you, Sabrina, I can see on my screen, moving on to you, Sabrina, we've heard different perspectives so far from the peer supporter perspective, health provider, from a Ministry of Health perspective. Sabrina, you work at AIDS Funds and you are a real champion and advocate for children living with and affected by HIV. And you have also seen some of these global alliances. You've lived through some of these global alliances. What do you think needs to be done differently in the new global alliance?
Thank you so much, Georgina. That's a very good question. So firstly, let's start at country level, because that's where the difference can be made. So at country level, as we all know, pediatric HIV continues to struggle for funding and political focus. We just heard it. And in terms of partnership at country level, I believe that the Global Alliance is in the perfect position to play a role as leading advocate in the pediatric HIV space. I think I will repeat some of the messages we just heard, but it just estimates how important it is. Because that's aiming for high prioritization for pediatric HIV. And it is at country level that the Global Alliance can make a difference. And this starts with ensuring that the government of whatever focus country we are talking about has the ability to take ownership, so that even by 2030 and beyond, the work can be sustained. And then secondly, focus on solidarity is key. And this is what we also heard. It will be important to bring together different key players in the Global Alliance country teams. Besides the government, civil society needs to be included. Like we heard, youth-led partners, women-led partners, community-based organizations, healthcare providers, of course, faith-based leaders, etc. You get my point. And together, country teams should analyze the data in the pediatric HIV space, identify the challenges, the gaps, and work on those in partnership. And one of the major strengths of the Global Alliance is that it spans multiple countries. And that creates an opportunity to learn from other focus countries within the Global Alliance and improve ways in finding the children and families who are left behind.
Excellent. So that's so it's about ownership, which is really key. It's about ownership, it's about solidarity, but you've also raised an important point. It is a global alliance, which means it's spanning lots of different countries. And there's something to be said for that energy, right? And for the learning and the sharing and the scale up when we look across different countries. So thank you very much for that. And soon we're going to be asking Tim from UNAIDS some questions, but just to preempt it before he speaks, actually, just wondering whether you can speak to the global AIDS strategy, because we also have a global AIDS strategy, which was launched only last year. And now we have a global alliance to end AIDS in children. How do the two in your mind speak to each other? Like, how can the alliance help to further the strategy?
Well, let me first start by saying that we were very happy with the UNAIDS strategy. So I think it can be aligned very well. And it's necessary because we all know that last year only 1.5 million people were newly infected with HIV, and AIDS took 650,000 lives. And every number is a human being, and many of them still a child. So when you peel that number of AIDS-related deaths to see who is dying, you find that inequalities are at the root. And we know this because according to the UNAIDS 2022 Global AIDS Update, where we have all these figures combined and in a nice overview, we see that in 2021, children accounted for 4% of people living with HIV, but for 15% of AIDS-related deaths. Inequality. The inequalities children are facing in the global AIDS response are vast. And the reality is that no one is against children, but when budgets are tight, it's too easy for them to be put aside. And children have always been left behind. So when we combine the UNAIDS strategy with the Global Alliance, we can fix this. And we have to. While the global and regional focus on pediatric HIV during the past 5 years has been encouraging, we are talking about the gaps along the pediatric HIV cascade that remain. So the Global Alliance should break the ground to reduce the inequalities by making children, youth, and families priority. And children are the present and the future. And the Global Alliance should make sure that children will be, that has also been mentioned, will be included in the prevention, in the treatment, research, rights, funding, and holistic needs. So yeah, Georgina, what I can say is that prioritizing children is the only way we can end AIDS in our lifetime. But if we want to make that happen by 2030, which we all do, of course, we have to prioritize children.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a really good segue to you, Tim, this connection between the global AIDS strategy, which is an important advocacy tool for advocates like myself, the global AIDS strategy, which speaks about inequality. It speaks about those who are left behind, and amongst them are children. And so it is really the fact that the strategy explicitly mentions this, and now there's a global alliance that can give us a political push, but also places attention on where are the gaps, those programmatic gaps, what are the innovations the technical excellence that needs to be scaled up, and how do we all do this together? I mean, it comes together really beautifully. Tim, do you like how I have totally internalized the objectives of the Global Alliance? Yes.
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 Well, yes. Well, maybe before you speak, let me introduce you. Thank you so much, Sabrina. So just as a reminder, Tim Ruabuhemba is from UNAIDS and coordinates the work of the Global Alliance to End AIDS in Children from UNAIDS, is in South Africa. And so it's really great to have you, Tim, and to have you also hear the different perspectives so that you can take some of the ideas from this summit directly to the steering committee of the Global Alliance. So welcome to this session. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to speak? Would you like to continue speaking to the issue of the UNAIDS strategy and how it furthers, how the Global Alliance furthers the goals of the strategy?
Thank you very much, Georgina. And I must, first of all, thank you and also say it's a great honor and privilege to be here, and our gratitude to the organizers for inviting UNAIDS to be part of this panel at the close of this groundbreaking summit. And also to recognize the health providers, the peer supports, the MOH representatives, the civil society partners, and actually the frontline workers listening to us during this discussion, but also to really express our gratitude for the sacrifices that you make and the difference you make in the lives of the children affected by HIV, among others. But also, Sabrina, I was very much impressed by the theme for the summit. It actually, in a package, summarizes the alliance. Allow me to say a few words on this theme. One, do it right. Now, do it right by addressing the inequality. Do it right by implementing the 4 pillars, which my colleagues on the panel have talked about. The other one is do it together. There's nothing as important with regard to the alliance in terms of whether it will work or not, other than by making sure that this smart partnership works. And I'm glad that my other panelists have talked about it, and the other partners on the call appreciate that if there's going to be a difference at country level, we have to have smart partnership in play. And do it now. If you listen to Sabrina, the way she summarized the data, especially as it relates to children affected by HIV, it is unacceptable, it has to change, it has to stop. So the urgency is critical. Now, getting back to the alliance and how it relates and how closely related it is with the strategy, as you know, and as Sabrina has rightly mentioned, the UNAIDS strategy is nothing other than addressing the inequalities. So the alliance itself addresses the inequalities. It's at the front and center. The heart of the alliance to end AIDS in children is about addressing inequalities as they relate to children. It's a priority and a non-negotiable part of ending AIDS in children. And also, when you look at the inequalities that we are actually talking about, is when you critically look at the 4 main pillars, which also my fellow panelists have talked about, and I'm glad that Shafiki also talked about them at the opening of the summit. These 4 pillars, when you look at them critically, they address the inequalities. And they actually came as a result of a close study of the global plan and the 3 frees. What worked? What did not work? And out of that, we came up with the four pillars. Now, I don't have to repeat the 4 pillars. The first one just addresses treatment and care for adolescents. The second one, pillar 2, it is closing the PMTCT gap. The pillar 3, preventing HIV, especially in ANCs. And 4, the most important, among others, is addressing structural barriers that hinder access to services. I'm glad that my friend and colleague from Eswatini talked about it. This is an important pillar that we need to address at country level. The inequalities of access to services. Access to testing, treatment, and care for infants, children, adolescents living with HIV represents a long-standing inequality at country level. And the question that I put back on the table is that why are the unique needs of these populations, especially for children, are not being prioritized at country level? Now, this is something that the Alliance would like to advocate, to promote, and try and mobilize countries to make sure that it is addressed. And then lastly, the other one, Sabrina, is the issue of stigma and the criminalization of key populations and people living with HIV in particular, which is related to pillar number 3. And this is important if we have to bring down the new infections, especially in this population that we are talking about. And this must be addressed. So inequality that is a big problem in terms of advancing all that we are doing, and that one is really addressed by pillar number 4. The other pillars are important, but pillar 4 is something that we really need to address much more than we are doing at country level. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I think it was great to also see Tim take us again through the pillars and through the broad, the broad goal of the Global Alliance and how it so beautifully actually helps to deliver on the global AIDS strategy. Because as Colleen mentioned in her intervention, in order for this to actually work, we all have to start by knowing this Global Alliance. So I'm hoping that everyone who's listening here is starting to internalize these different aspects of the Global Alliance. You mentioned, Tim, you talked about smart partnership. I liked how you put that, because it's not just about partnership for the sake of partnership. You talked about smart partnership. And so it would just be great to hear from you. What do you mean by that? That it is going to take smart partnership to deliver on the Global Alliance?
Thank you very much, Sabrina. We've been in AIDS work over and over the years, and partnerships have evolved. There are a number of lessons that we have learned. One is that the smart partnership must involve the communities that are affected by the epidemic. And the involvement does not mean that you are ticking the box by saying people living with HIV are present, young people are present. No. What is their role? And I'm glad that you used the word earlier on, meaningful involvement of these affected communities. So the partnership is and involves these people with those that are leading in government or in organizations. So that is the one thing that can actually make the difference. And we should also address the issue of tokenism. Tokenism meaning as long as the affected communities are on the table just for XYZ meetings, then that is enough. No, they have to have a voting right. They have to have a voice. They have to bring in their agenda into the meeting. And also something that was said in this meeting a short while ago was that they should be decision makers. That is what we mean by smart partnership. The other thing about smart partnership is that they should be on the steering wheel. The steering wheel co-sharing the leadership, what we call inclusive leadership. It's not only about governments. It's not only about donors. It's not only about Ministry of Health, for example, at country level, that will make the difference. No, it is the involvement of these communities that are feeling the pitch of the epidemic. So that is critical, and also involving very other critical partners like faith communities in those other places where they play a critical role. So it's not only government, it's not only about donors, it's not only about the UN. No, the ones who are going to make the difference are the ones who are feeling it, and these are the ones that we are talking about now.
So that is very powerful to hear, Tim, extremely powerful to hear. We didn't engage with start free, stay free, AIDS free as much as we perhaps should have, but it's probably because it didn't have the meaningful and, as you put it, inclusive engagement of communities. And it was really great to hear you speak to, what do we mean by meaningful? And the fact that it's being part of those structures, decision-making structures, which is what Nosipo said actually in her intervention. Since this is Pata and a big majority of people listening in the various hubs and online are actually health providers, what about the meaningful involvement of health providers? So we heard Colleen say that actually health providers also have an important story. Health providers are there every day. They see the health system. They're on the ground. So you have the perspective of clients, you have the perspective of those who are accessing care, but then you have also the perspective of those who are actually delivering that care. And I know that on the steering committee of the Global Alliance, we have the networks of people living with HIV there represented, and we need to also see that at country level. But what about health providers? Who's providing the perspective of health providers in the Global Alliance at a leadership level?
Thank you, Sabrina, you bring that up. And before I forget, one thing also about the smart partnership is the promotion of a bottom-up approach, bottom-up, from the country up, not top-down. And one thing that we learned, especially from the 3 frees, was that it was much more of a top-down, and it had its limitations. So if we are going to do things differently, yes, it has to be bottom-up. Get these voices from the community, speak, and then for us at the global level, listen to what they are saying and provide the necessary required support. Now back to your question in terms of the health providers. The health providers are a powerful voice. They are influencers, and they can make or break something that we are actually discussing as we speak. And I'm glad that as the alliance was being conceptualized, they were considered as being very, very critical players, just like the community or affected communities, especially of people living with HIV. So with regard to the steering committee that you made reference to, PATA, for example, that is an embodiment of the health providers that we are talking about are going to be part of the steering committee effective January 2023. And you don't have to club. You have earned it. PATA earns it. And there's no better spokesperson for the health providers to be on that committee other than PATA. So that one is done.
Excellent. I hope all the PATA staff have taken note of that. Someone should maybe tweet that, right? This is what we call accountability. January 2023, it means PATA has a bit more work to do, right? Colleen, this is good to hear, right? Because you said, Colleen, didn't you? You actually said that it's important to know about it, and then it's important to be consulted. But this is actually going
another
beyond
step.
consultation, right?
Yeah. This is so exciting. I was clapping hands for PATA because, and thank you so much to Tim for the UNAIDS, just for the consideration and the nod. I think this acknowledgement is a step in the right direction for not only for PATA, but for healthcare providers across the globe. I mean, literally such amazing affirmation, because you're joining with these meaningful partners and saying, what do you think? How can we do this differently? How more do we lead? So it's not only to consult, but it's to get a seat at the table and then to say, how do we take this forward, knowing the work on the ground? So such an amazing affirmation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, I'm thanking on behalf of all healthcare providers across the globe, that is.
That is wonderful. I love that, Colleen. You haven't just stopped at South Africa or Africa, but you've gone to the whole globe, because it is, after all, a global alliance, isn't it? So indeed, on behalf of the health providers, but I think it's really important. And I think that the discussion that we've had about meaningful engagement and of civil society and providers is a shift, to be honest. And to have Tim also say that actually the last global plan was very top down and there's an ambition for this to be more bottom up. I think that's an important thing that we have to also kind of, all of us, like, hold ourselves to account in making sure that that happens. Nobutle, I would like to come to you, because in the questions that people have raised, participants have raised, I don't know whether you can all see these questions, but they've asked around meaningful engagement through structures. So we know that at a global level, there's a steering committee with various other substructures. And later on, there's another person who asks about how will country teams be held accountable to involve networks, young people, and health providers. Now, sometimes we can get it right. Let's say, you know, we can have providers, young people, women living with HIV represented at global level. And then at country level, it's only ministry people, politicians, maybe some researchers. And Nosipo said, you know, young people must be involved in decision-making at national and district level. So how can we hold governments like that national level accountability so that a young person's voice, a provider's voice, is taken as seriously as everybody else at the table at national level? Might you be able to speak to that?
Thank you, Georgina. I think what I've seen works is the technical working group, because there's full representatives of all the stakeholders, and the TWG thematic lead is able to even advocate to Directorate, Ministry of Health, political level. So the TWG is the main structure that countries must adopt and fully utilize it for advocacy and for implementation and for driving the pediatric agenda.
Okay, great. Now, how do we make sure that in all countries, the TWGs are involving young people, are involving health providers and broader civil society? How do we make sure that the technical working groups are doing that? Is that the case in Eswatini, for instance?
For Eswatini, we use the technical working group, but we also use partners. I must acknowledge the partners actually are using the bottom-up approach. They are at community level, they're with the youth, they're with the healthcare workers. So at the TWG level, that's where all these issues are discussed and action plans come out. And then partners are able to actually even go and offer the services. The healthcare workers are working with the partners in offering these services, working with the youth to offer these services. So there is an in-between of partnership, multi-sectoral approach between TWG level to the service receiver. Also, the TWG is able to escalate the issues to PEPFAR level, to the donors, to UN, to Global Fund, to all the global funders that we can even think of.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you very much for that. As we come towards the end, there are a couple of other questions that I'd like to see whether we could respond to, since we are in a Lekgotla, thank you, Lekgotla, yes, Luan, I managed to say it, a gathering, a conversation together. And there are a couple of, quite like interesting questions. One, Tim, I wonder whether you can speak to, which is, who will pay for the Global Alliance? That's a very good question.
I saw that one.
You saw that one, eh? And were you wondering the same thing, MOH? You were saying, yeah, who's going to pay for this? Because you talked about the importance of funders seeing it through, seeing that last mile through. And then the other one, which is really important, is about key populations. Because when we do talk about 95, reaching, we need to think about who isn't being reached and where are the gaps. And often those are people who are most marginalized and stigmatized and discriminated against, as Sabrina mentioned, as Tim mentioned. And so we're talking about sex workers, we're talking about LGBTIQ+ communities, we're talking about people who use drugs. So we're talking about communities who are not able to access care for a whole range of different reasons. So it's great to see Pillar 4, to be honest, in the Global Alliance, but it would be interesting to have any of the panelists reflect on, how well in this particular space are we doing in including young key populations? What more can we do? Because this is an important part of being inclusive as well and meeting need. So Tim, maybe we could start with you. Who's going to pay for all of this innovation and technical excellence and scale up in order to end AIDS by 2030?
Well, that's a tough one, Georgina. But one word I can say, it is shared responsibility. The responsibility runs across all of us. But at country level, something that is very, very important, and I think one of us talked about it when we talk about political commitment, is that each of our governments should put children as a priority. And given the limited resources that are available to governments, still children should be prioritized, especially given the enormity of the problem that we are faced with. So really, that is important to note. Then two is that we are fortunate that we have what we call partners at the global level that have a vested interest in this subject. Like the Alliance, for example, we have, in addition to the UN family, we have Global Fund and PEPFAR who are playing a very critical role in countries and also providing funding support to the different interventions. However, at the country level, there's need for the countries to actually raise their voice and put onto the table the issue of children affected by AIDS in terms of the different interventions that need to be supported. That one is very critical. And as some of you know, there is what we call the CCM that exists in countries where funding applications go through that body before they go to the Global Fund. Make sure that children are part of that funding application, given the problems that we are faced with as we speak. And all these other issues that emerge from the four pillars, and more so pillar 4, which may actually fall through the cracks because there's no funding for it. So that's an opportunity, but it needs a lot of mobilization and advocacy by the countries themselves to potential funders, especially global fund. I think that is what I could say. Governments have a responsibility. People have a responsibility, especially those that are making decisions for funding applications, like that one that goes to the Global Fund, and that opportunity is actually coming next year in February, 2023. So let's seize it and advocate for it.
Absolutely.
Children's agenda on the CCM table.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is a really key moment for us all collectively to be speaking up for an investment in children. We have the Global Fund new funding model. That process is restarting right now. In the new year, we will have the PEPFAR COP processes. That is also happening. The Global Fund have in there as priority interventions work with women and children. So we need to actually grab onto those pieces and demand that they be well funded, to be honest. So I think, thank you for raising that, Tim. I think for all those advocates who are here on the call to know that these opportunities are the opportunities for us to make sure that there is testing, linkages to care, that we are addressing those rights-related interventions that ultimately affect the lives of children. There's still the question about key populations, and I see Dudu has also mentioned it. We must leave no one behind. So I don't know whether there are any panelists who would like to speak to that. Yes, Sabrina? Sabrina, I love that our name has been used interchangeably.
I know.
It's great, great. Yes, go for it.
I think it's important to just mention again, maybe let's start with the word solidarity, because solidarity applies to everyone, and it applies especially to the most vulnerable. And I believe those are the children of the people who belong to what we call key populations. So we all know it's related to stigma. We have tough barriers to overcome, and I believe the only way to do it is to be to work in solidarity together and face it. It is difficult, but in order to reach those really left behind and really reach an AIDS-free generation, key populations need to be included. Like I said, every number is a human being. And this is about the children. So I think it's important to just mention it again, how important it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the fact that we also have civil society, the fact that we have the global networks of people living with HIV, the fact that we'll have PATA on the steering committee from January, means that we know that there are entry points at global level, and we need to make sure that there's that representation at global level as well. I mean, that's something we need to all be discussing on that steering committee, and make sure that that's also reflected at national and district level, so that indeed the experiences, the voices, the needs are raised. We want this to be a global alliance where we hear new voices. We need to hear the voices of people who have lived experience, are the supporters, are the providers. And that's what's going to make it different, as Tim said. So I'm going to bring our conversation to a close, but I would like Nosipo. Nosipo, I just wonder, how are you feeling listening to all of this? You started it by saying it's a big alliance. How do you feel about it?
Okay, thank you, Georgina. It feels big, it's overwhelming, and at the same time, I'm so excited and I feel such a big political power. I feel there's going to be more resources for the peer supporters. It's an advantage to all those peer supporters back home. And also, I'm so happy because the attention is all being brought to the kids, and the children are being realized. And I feel it's everyone's duty to advocate for their rights. Thank you very much, Tim. And it was such a powerful session. Thank you very much.
Wow, Nosipo, thank you very much for closing this for us. I'd really like to thank all the panelists who were part of this conversation. Thank you so much, Nosipo. Thank you so much, Colleen. Thank you, Nobutle. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate the different perspectives. Some key messages: there have been previous plans before, but we need to know this plan. We need to own this plan. Issues are intersectional and not just biomedical. So those 4 pillars, we need to know them as well and make sure that we are really using them to guide us in our efforts to really respond to needs. Involvement, meaningful engagement is important in structures at global, national, district level. So let's make sure that peer supporters and providers, people who are living with HIV, that different perspectives are really well reflected in those decision-making spaces, because that is smart and inclusive partnership. Really liked that language, Tim. And as we do this, let's make sure that no one is left behind. Let's make sure that we are thinking about the needs of key populations and children of key populations, because really this is very much about thinking about where there are gaps. And we know that those people who are most marginalized and stigmatized and discriminated against and criminalized are not being reached by services as they should be. So thank you very much for this session. Really appreciate it. I think we've done a good job. Let's clap for ourselves. Clap for us. Great. That's the privilege of being in a room with others. It's wonderful. And so now so thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Gina, sorry,
Yes.
and maybe just on behalf of the panelists, to thank you as well for hosting and for chairing this very meaningful session and amazing outcomes from this time together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Colleen. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, let's clap for me. Let's clap for me. Let's clap for me. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's now shift the gear to the final part of this summit, of the PATA 2022 summit. We're shifting gears here. There we go. All right. So I don't know whether you're ready. I hope everyone in the different hubs are ready for this, but we are going to be announcing some PATA 2022 Summit Award winners. So each year at the PATA Summit, PATA champions are recognized and announced. And this year, PATA held the Me and My Health Provider campaign. And today have launched the PATA Champions page. So here it is. This is the PATA Champions page on its website, where you can actually nominate an exceptional health provider or submit a story on an exceptional health facility. So do you see a health provider champion and a clinic champion? Like one of our current clinic champions, Inquen Baptiste from Bamenda, Cameroon. So please go to the website and read their story. You can see the clinic champion here, Mikenda Baptiste Health Center. So this is a new part of the website, which is being launched today. Now, over the last few weeks, PATA received over 100 nominations from caregivers and from adolescents and young people. And these nominations are of health providers who are doing it right, doing it together, and doing it every day. And these here are the actual health providers who have been nominated. 11 are being recognized this year. And I'm going to read their names. And if they are with you, you must just stand up for them and give them a big clap. But over here, we are going to clap for every single one. So join me behind your screens. So the first one, first health provider champion, Nontlantla Mazaleni from the Tloluwazi Pakati Health Center in South Africa. Rebecca Paza from the Johan Haynes Clinic, also in South Africa. We're doing well, South Africa. Cephas Nkandu from Pride Community Health Organization in Zambia. Charles Chishala from Chikupi Rural Health, also in Zambia. Well done. Catherine Kotatso Ramodipa from the Matsi Clinic in South Africa. And Betherida Lukalanga from the Chasanga Clinic in Zambia. Zambia again. Excellent. We have 5 more. Nomusa Ndlovu from the United Bulawayo Hospital in Zimbabwe. Hulda Odero from the Litare Health Center in Kenya. Hey. Innocent Okello from the Lira Regional Referral Hospital in Uganda. Dr. Leanne Campbell from the Baylor College of Medicine in Mbeya, Tanzania. And Tikale Singano from the Zalewa Clinic in Malawi. Excellent. I hope Malawi went crazy there because we saw you earlier. So we know that you are able to. We know excellent, 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 excellent. Wow, amazing, amazing. So let's join let's actually just celebrate all the healthcare workers, the hundreds and hundreds of healthcare workers who are part of the summit with us. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so shall we hear? I think we have a video. Shall we hear what some of our healthcare provider champions have to say? Pata Tech, over to you.
I've been working with young people, children and adolescents for 4 years now.
Providing care to kids and adolescents living with HIV, with tuberculosis, and with malnutrition. And I met Grace in about 2015.
I got an opportunity to help someone, or even not only children, but also adults. I also work with adults. So this gave me a platform to focus on my objective in life.
I joined and started volunteering in that clinic in 2017. And that time I became very passionate about supporting children and adolescents living positively with the HIV virus.
These young people living with HIV look up to us. I shall never stop doing good, especially when I'm around adolescents, because whatever I do, they notice it. So I must continue being the friendly face that they see at the facility and always put them first.
We've definitely seen stigma and just mistreatment of patients in different settings. Some of it's related to just an overburdened healthcare setting and Maybe some of it's related to healthcare workers themselves against the emotional distress of seeing kids and families suffer. But at its core, I think treating people the way you would want to be treated or the way you want your child to be treated is so important.
I've experienced that children and young people, they differ. Their needs, they differ, and their expectations differ when they come to the clinic. So we need to address their problems individually. We are not supposed to use a formula. Actually, we're supposed to take each child as he comes and address his or her specific needs individually without using an umbrella solution.
I'm privileged to take care of Grace, to be part of her journey, to helping her get back to thriving and flourishing in her life, and it's an honor.
I feel honored. I feel that my job being validated. I feel it makes me feel important in a society, in a healthcare setting, and it gives me the zeal to do even more for the kids that I come in contact with every day and make them smile at the end of the day always.
Of course, I feel happy. I feel privileged. I think being nominated as a healthcare provider champion, it makes me know that there's something I'm doing.
I feel good, and it gives me courage to continue supporting young people and people living with HIV, most especially putting a smile in their faces and more dedication and passion to do more, learn more, make more, to make more, live longer, and achieve their dreams.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again, health provider champions. Congratulations. Okay, so moving on from the health provider champions, we also wanted to announce the winners and the champions from 2 different challenges that have been run through the summit. So the first one is the Sassy Socials. Did you know about that challenge? The Sassy Socials. So social media was on fire, and hands down, Y+ Global. Y+ Global goes off with the most social media posts. And but there were lots of individuals keeping the space buzzing, but a special kind of recognition to Y+ Global. So well done, Y+ Global. And then we also have our one-legged dance champions. One-legged dance champions. We saw many of the videos. In fact, I was watching one with our PATA colleagues here in the office. I have to say that healthcare providers, like, we've got some really, really great dancers in the PATA network, and others who just love to have a lot of fun. And from those, the one that really, really stood out were the Cameroon Baptist Health Convention. Congratulations! But really, all of you who submitted your challenges, it looked like you had a lot of fun doing it. And it's good, it's great to be able to have fun. I mean, really, you're all champions for even giving that a go. So thank you so much for that energy and just for the fun. And I think we're going to see some of the videos right now. And wherever you are, all those hubs, as you watch the videos, can you please stand up and join in the one-legged dance, yeah? So as we watch the videos, also stand up and join in the one-legged dance. It's just fun, so just stand up. And if you're by yourself behind your screen, stand up and do the one-legged dance.
Subhanallah. expression. Give them. Go, go. One leg. Aye. Aye. One leg. Just one leg. One leg. One leg. Aye.
This word inside, it no be everybody sabi dance. So I dey do this song to teach you the basic step. I say make you know the fear, run to the dance floor. Just do as I do, and we go have a lot of fun. So jump to the center, move one leg like this, and bounce it. See, and bounce it. Go, go, and bounce it. Now with African dance, you have to go down low, shoulder up, and just chest. Facial expression. Give them. Go, go. One leg. One leg. Just one leg. One leg. One leg. Keep bouncing. One leg. Show them. This song be one leg. If you get two legs, yes. If you get three legs, yes. If you get four legs, yes. So show me the dance now. I say show me the dance now. I say show me the dance now. Wow, now one leg is everywhere. Everybody's dancing one leg. If you go to the club, if you go to the church, everybody one leg. America one leg. Africa one leg. Europe one leg. Now Asia, jump to the center, move one leg like this, bounce it. See, bounce it. Go, go, bounce it. Now with African dance, you have to go down low, shoulder up, and just chest. Facial expression. Give them. Go, go. One leg. One leg. Just one leg. One leg. One leg. Keep bouncing. One leg. Show them. One leg. One leg. Bouncing. One leg. One leg. This song be one leg. If you get two legs, yes. If you get three legs, yes. If you get four legs, yes. This song be one leg. If you get two legs, yes. If you get three legs, yes. If you get four legs, yes. One leg. One leg. Just one leg. One leg. One leg. Keep bouncing. One leg. One leg. One leg. Bouncing. One leg. One leg. Give them.
Wow, guys. Woo! We are exhausted here. I don't know whether you guys did the one-legged dance, but we did. And we are absolutely exhausted. My goodness. But what a beautiful collection of videos and just really great energy, just great creativity from across the hubs and just from across the different health facilities. But thank you so much for that fun. That was just wonderful. So I would like to turn it over to Luan for a final thank you as we close the summit. But before then, on behalf of everybody non-PATA, would like to just say thank you, Luan. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Tandy. Thank you, all the PATA team for putting together a really phenomenal summit. Every year, you guys pull together a very organized and coordinated. I know you don't feel it is, but for those of us who receive this, it's extremely organized, extremely coordinated. It's always got a really great element of celebration and recognition of the really, really hard work that health providers put in every single day. And today I was speaking to someone who said they love PATA because it's not just about the content. It's not just about the what you do and what you fight for, but it's also about how you do it and bringing people together online through the different hubs and just facilitating people's participation and across the board. We talked about a global alliance of different stakeholders. Heck, you do that every year. So just to thank you guys for all the hard work that your entire team puts their heart and soul into. Thank you so much, Pata. So everyone clap for Pata. Now over to you, Lou, to close your summit.
Thanks, Georgina. Thanks so much. What a wonderful session, and thanks to all the panelists. And yeah, I mean, some really exciting news for Pata, some hard work ahead. But I think amazing, and really for next year, Pata's focus will make sure that we have frontline providers, represented in country teams as part of really pushing this agenda of the Global Alliance. And I think just seeing all this energy and momentum building around really prioritizing children. And that's really exciting. And just, of course, always the Pata Summit, there was just this one little paragraph that I read in one of those beautiful videos, which was, we offer services with joy in our hearts. And I think for me, that is really what it is all about, because often we forget that health providers are a critical part of our community, and that really the service delivery is really driven by them, and with joy in their hearts, they truly do make a difference in the world. So, our hugest appreciation for the sacrifices and the commitment they make. So it makes our jobs much easier, just because, they are there on the front line, and they are doing it right, doing it together. And as you say, Georgina, doing it every day without fail. But just, I wanted to just say a few little things. And for all of those amazing people who are still sending in your one-legged dances, please know you will all be part of some big YouTube, excellent extended Pata video of, I think we actually could probably clock in some kind of TikTok dance challenge on the most one-legged dancers. And you may find it funny, but this was actually Georgina's idea after sort of sitting in her office, trying to come up with, what would be a really, really fun thing. So Georgina, I hope your vision really came to fruition. So huge thanks also for all your partnership as well, and your support. But just then a few thank yous I want to make, and I won't keep you long. As I'm doing this, just to let you know in the background, I'm going to ask the tech team to literally start upgrading all of our satellites right now. So I want you all to know that with the sort of 50 whatever connections right now, there are another 50 people. So, no matter what session you've been in, you've had more than 1,500, providers being able to really participate in the last 3 days. And I mean, that's just really so heartwarming. But I can't believe we're already here at the end of 3 days, just when, everything was going so swimmingly. And now we have to say goodbye, which is always the sad part. But I think, first off, I just want to really thank all of our participants, the many virtual ones, but actually our summit is mostly really about those who are all meeting in different satellite hubs, 24, if not more. There were about 28 hubs, all across, and we often say sub-Saharan Africa, but we know we've had hubs in Ethiopia, Morocco. So just really incredible, all your energy and commitment. And I mean, also just appreciating many of you I know in Nigeria and Cameroon are going to climb on another bus and drive for 8 hours. So just know that, we carry you in that journey, and we're just so grateful for, those sacrifices and commitment you make to always find time to connect with peers across the region. And this is what's important, I think, about Pata's work, that as frontline providers, trying to create opportunity to meet and connect with your colleagues in the region. And then, of course, all our wonderful presenters and facilitators across the last 3 days, just, and many of you also frontline providers yourselves. And I was watching in Pato Real, where we had, I think, 2 nurses, presenting some cases and just being super, super proud that they can also present and share their cases on a platform and being able to speak, where we often know that frontline providers, aren't able to access sort of international conferences, et cetera. So this is one of the few platforms that we really, really prioritize. It is about frontline providers, and it must be led by frontline providers. So just to all our partners, our donors, who always, really support this. And I don't want to say just a summit, because on our Linking and Learning Hub, we have 3,000 registered frontline providers. So it's about engaging and keep on using that space to connect and to place value. And, I can already see Colleen's going to be a big health provider champion, not just regionally, but globally. So please keep connected to the hub. We're going to be doing a lot more exciting things you can access from Tele-Echo, WHO webinars. You can actually access so many things from different trainings all through the hub. So let's keep this space on fire. Let's not only keep it on fire during the summit. And then really, I want to thank the interpreters. Guys, it's not easy. We all speak really fast, super fast, actually. And we've had Swahili, Portuguese, and French interpretation. I'm sure they have struggled a little bit of the time because we have all been talking super fast. But really, they don't get the recognition, just the, for 3 days solidly, sitting there in the back end and making sure that no one is left behind. So thank you for that. And then our crazy tech team in Joburg, I think, was super relieved that I took a midnight flight to Nairobi today, so that I wasn't breathing all over them. But they are pretty remarkable, and they've worked so hard the last few days. I don't know where their camera is now. They're sort of hiding themselves. But I was trying to really send a huge shout out. Glynis and the tech team, can you not sort of show yourselves in any shape or form? But just huge kudos to all of you. We can at least get a little wave. There's Glynis. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm coming. Let me just tell you more. Thank you. Okay, so lastly, really importantly, I think, Georgina said it, but really to the Pata team, I have the hugest privilege of working with the best team possible. So just so super proud of our team and so super proud of all of you. So huge thank you. And I know Glenn is going to cry again this year, but I'm not going to cry, I promise. And then lastly, just to all these incredible satellites. I mean, you guys, I don't know, you just sort of take it to another level. Every year, just when we think it can't actually get better than this, you literally just elevate it to another level. Glynis and I were saying, I don't know, we think maybe we need to have it in person, because I don't know if we can, I don't know if we can improve on this year's summit. But just really all of the energy and the huge, just commitment you all put into this. And I think for me, it just comes back to that, demonstration of doing it right and doing it together, and super grateful to all of you. We are going to now do our great Pata video. But as we do that, I'm going to ask everyone to put their cameras on. And then I'm going to read through some of the sites. So we're going to try and do this in a coordinated way, but let's be honest, it's going to be super real, because we like doing real as Pata. It doesn't have to be all fancy and slick, but we're going to try and get it as slick as possible. So what we're going to do is everyone's going to put on their camera, but they're going to keep themselves on mute, and we're going to listen to the Pata video, and we want to see you all dancing. And then as the video plays, I'm going to read out some of the satellites, And if you can do your coordination super quick, if you can unmute yourself literally for half a minute, second, and do a big shout out, and then I'm quickly going to move to the next. But just to be fair to the others, you need to mute yourself super quickly as well. So we're going to try, may not be perfect, but let's just enjoy it and just, yeah, have a wonderful end of summit. And thanks to everyone, and travel home safely for those of you who are traveling. And everyone, thank you so much for all of your support. So I'm going to go over to the tech team and ask them if they could play the Pata song. And I'm hoping to see all of those cameras on and people getting ready to dance. And I'm going to start calling out satellites soon as the videos start.
To the children of Africa, we're here to say that no child should be born with the chip in Africa. And if you believe with me, rise to the feet and let's sing together. Yo, 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 yo.
So if we have Eswatini, can you unmute yourselves for a minute? Okay, I'm just going to Arsenio. Can we hear you? I Kenya. Health Need Uganda.
God bless you for giving us the opportunity. God bless you.
Uganda.
Thank you. God bless you.
Nigeria, Port Harcourt.
We hope to do better in our place of work and serving you better.
Oasis, Mozambique. Mozambique, wait Zambia.
I don't know what's
East London, South Africa. Wonderful to see you all. I'm going to ask we play the video one more time, and we want to see everyone dance, but maybe you need to mute yourself.
Hey.
Can we play the video one more time and then we will call it a day?
South Africa, Lesotho, Malawi,
education, protection, and nutrition. Future generation is here with us right now. Hear their voices. Care for the children.
Ethiopia, Malawi, Botswana, Rwanda, Burundi.
We need to care. Africa rise.
I don't know what you're waiting for.
Who's gonna fight for them? Who's gonna speak for them? Kenya rise. For the children. Africa rise. Care for the children. Oh, oh.
Mozambique, Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Somalia, Morocco, Namibia, Angola, DRC. Let's go! That's why we sing. One more time. Are you We're here to say that no child should be born with HIV in Africa. And if you believe with me, rise on your feet and let's sing together. Yo,
South Africa.
We are live in Cameroon.
Besuki Selfie. Besuki. To give them the special attention. Future generation is still with us right now.
Love you, we love you, we love you, love you.
We care. God bless you.
I don't know what you're waiting for. Who's gonna fight for them? Who's gonna speak for them? Your life and care for their children. Spirit don't care. Spirit don't care. You're right. Africa rise. Care for their children. Ghana, Somalia, Morocco, Namibia, Angola, DRC. One more time, are you ready?
Everyone, thank you so much. Travel safe. And there were some things I did need to tell you, which I forgot about, of course, which is at the bottom of your summit drop-down. You can find something called a evaluation. And once you've completed that, you should be able to download a certificate. Some people were saying their names weren't showing, but I have a sense that maybe that was because there was a lot of activity in the last sort of hour or two on the hub. So we will test that again. Also, there's a 5-minute survey that says Pata's next steps. We want all of you to be part of Pata's new strategic plan. There are 5 questions and they'll take you 4 minutes to answer. So please, everyone, if you would be kind enough to do that for us. And all of the sessions, all of the reruns will be available on the site in the same session link where you joined the session. I think we should just give the tech guys a day or two to recover a little bit. But I think really by Friday, hopefully all of the sessions will be there. And all of you will be receiving a report with all the session links and the PowerPoint links, etc., etc. And we just wish you a wonderful rest of year, a wonderful new year, and we look forward to an amazing 2023 with children right in the center. So much appreciation and thanks to all of you. Please travel safe and we'll speak to you all soon. And thanks everyone there in the Tech Hub and at the Pata office. So lovely seeing you all there together. And I will hopefully try and join some colleagues here in Kenya. Okay, bye everyone.
Well, this song is dedicated to the children of Africa. We're here to say that no child should be born with HIV in Africa. And if you believe with me, rise on your feet and let's sing together. Yo, 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 yo.
And nutrition, no discrimination, but give them the special attention. The future generation is here with us right now, and we're their voices. We have to stand and be counted. Pata, pata.
Somalia, Morocco, Namibia, Angola, DRC. Let's go! Yeah, yeah. Why, yo, 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 yo. That's why we sing. That's why we shout. Why, yo, 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 yo.
Fige kasi zola sungabona intombe yasegoli. Asangani khana ngibambalana ngekalana, then my friends told me I'm slow. I'm shying on high and I'm shying a smile. I'm doing now, oh yeah, Baba, no, take my hand. Was I in Tokalinda, Baba, Lami, nice pants, and I'm singing like I sing full no tando love. Kizzy, oh yeah, Jalelo Mina. I'm not so young, Fabu young, I may be crazy, don't mind me, but hey, I'll just play it up. I'm begging Santa, so on Dele Tuesday. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead. Yes, it's time, it's all sako. Don't take the money. Can't say I'm trying to go through that. Yes, it's fair, I'm on Simba Wako. It's all so good, and I get it. I'm coming to the yes, I'm the shit, it's what I'm not. Yes, it's fair, I'm on and I'm singing like I think full no time, no love. See, oh yeah, Jalelo Mina. I'm not so young, Fabu young, see. I may be crazy, don't mind me, but hey, I'll just play it up. I'm begging Santa, so on Dele Tuesday. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead. Yes, it's time, it's all sako. Don't take the money.